points to talk about. They're all here. Good. Ready to go? Hi everyone. This video stems from a request that I got from my cousin. I was talking to her about my life. We were just chit-chatting, and at one point I had to update her about my current situation. I basically graduated from a Master of Science a little more than a month ago, and now I am looking for jobs. The interesting thing is that I found myself to explain about a context of which not everyone is aware of. It's kind of like being a painter, being surrounded by a lot of friends who know all about painting, who love painting, but then when they step out, maybe what people know about painting is not that much. So this video is for my cousin, but it's also to depict what I'm experiencing right now and to take a photograph or a video of the current moment that I feel like a lot of recent graduates are going through. I graduated from a Master of Science called Global Development, so I would like to work within international relations and international development. But what does that mean? What does that entail? What does it consist of? What are the positions? What kind of jobs are we talking about? The way I like to define international development and international relations is covering positions that are not necessarily made to make a company profitable, which is the private sector, but rather being in an environment or being in an organization, a non-governmental organization, a humanitarian organization, multiple configurations that are all about having a positive impact on society. It can be economic empowerment, human rights, political development, development of democracy, and all that. So it's a really big basket. And of course, there are so many positions. For example, Doctors Without Borders is a really big non-governmental organization, and they are usually in humanitarian contexts where doctors are needed to bring healthcare. So in a way, being a doctor not only allows you to be a normal doctor anywhere, and one of these contexts could be the humanitarian fields or refugee camps where a natural disaster occurred or wars occurred. But there are so many roles, jobs, and positions that human resources within international development are looking for. There are really high chances that if you studied engineering and you become a civil engineer, you will probably work as a civil engineer, no matter whether you're gonna work as a civil engineer in the private sector or in international development or in public sector. More or less, that is the kind of tasks that you will do. And what I love about STEM graduates, hard sciences, is that those kind of studies give you a set of skills and competencies that usually develop vertically. For example, a doctor. In order to become a doctor, you have to study 10 plus years. And this is because not only you will require to accumulate a huge amount of knowledge, because all of that knowledge is in a way functional for you to become a doctor. And you also need a piece of paper for you to be called doctor. I cannot start reading a lot of books about anatomy and all of a sudden start to call myself a doctor. And then what you specifically will do with that can be whatever you want, right? You can be in a hospital, you can work as a doctor in other contexts. Also, what in my opinion gives some kind of certainty is that as you study to become a doctor, you will know about how all bodies of any person, no matter the nationality, it will be just a matter of different terminologies or converting your title to be able to be a doctor in the US, even if you studied in France. But more or less, the set of knowledge will be the same. In our field, is much more complicated. The set of knowledge that can be built is mostly horizontal. You will have to know everything about anything. You have to know about history, about politics, about statistics, about data, health. You need to know languages as well. But it's really hard to come out from those kind of studies and cover a specific position. So what is happening right now? So today is February the 23rd, 2026, and we're living a really peculiar moment in history. First of all, the US. The United States have always been a really big actor within international development. And with the Trump administration, it's been a while now since the Department of International Development and Foreign Aid has been closed. And this had a huge backlash on international development on a global scale. And this is because they were giving a lot of money to make development projects happen. But since they pulled out from all of that, there's a lot of less money around cooperation and international development, solidarity, and going towards a common cause or a virtuous life as we could conceive it on a global scale as humans on the planet Earth rather than citizens of a specific nation. And this has set a trend of the far right rising in all countries that you can think of, which also practically speaking consisted of a rhetoric focused on countries having to look inwards and not having to care about international dynamics. So there's a lot of less money when it comes to organizations like the United Nations and international development entities. Let's add another layer, AI. Fantastic. Artificial intelligence has allowed us to write with a quality that we would have never dreamed of, allowed us to create content constantly, to cut a lot of junior positions. And here we're talking across the whole spectrum of jobs for junior positions or freshly graduates. For example, looking at consultancy firms, we noticed how a lot of the work that would have required junior personnel to be conducted, such as researching, putting together presentations, now has been reduced into a couple of clicks, requiring 20 minutes to conduct a research based on the AI chatbot that McKinsey managed to develop that allows people not to hire a junior consultant to do a job that would have required days of focused effort. Rather, they can now rely on an AI asking for information that they pull from historical of data that only they have access to, making the job much faster, much quicker. And this has been cutting a lot of entry-level positions. And again, this is not only about the public sector or international development. We're talking about all junior positions across the spectrum. Yeah. Another subchapter is also the optimization of the application processes as well as the screening processes. Right now, from the applicant side, it's really interesting that we have access to a plethora of generative AI tools that allow us to make the process of applications much faster and in a way increasing the quality potentially if we know how to work with these generative AI tools and if there is a supervision of a human that allows the recruiters to read material that is describing a human that has been made by a human, of course with the help of artificial intelligence. It has been much easier from the recruiter perspective to deploy AI tools to screen their candidates. And now we're talking about tools that allow to screen hundreds of applications in a matter of seconds to find a perfect match according to the keywords that have been inserted within certain CVs. It's basically AIs generating applications and AIs that are filtering and screening those applicants, making this interaction much less human to human, rather machine to machine. And this strips the human content from the human resources who are responsible of hiring, resulting in a lot of ghosting of recruiters that send you a certain assignment to do and they don't get back at you, leading you to wait for the unknown, finding out that 2 weeks prior a decision was already made to take someone and no one really has been getting back at me saying that, hey, look, we didn't get you, which is completely understandable, but still, some kind of decency would be nice. And I believe this AI helps to depersonalize these processes and make everyone forget that behind those applications, there's people. There's people who want to find a job, people who want to dedicate their productive time to do something, and we just get ghosted. So to sum it up, less money around the international development sector, big cuts in junior positions due to AI implementation by those very entities, and then AI again that makes the process of applying much easier, but also the screening process much easier and fast, leaving, virtually speaking, two machines, one that applies and one that screens, forgetting that there's people behind those applicants, pushing applicants to aim for a big quantity rather than the quality of applications. Here we're still applying, still going strong. I mean, of course, it's really frustrating to see that it is really hard to find a job, but we got this. Bye.